welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now, the only show on Indian television right now where you, the MSME entrepreneur, get center stage. We bring you expert opinions and voices no matter what industry or area you're interested in. Tonight, we're talking about education and the opportunities and challenges for you, the MSME entrepreneur. And to talk about their own experiences and to give you some advice, I have with me right here in the Mumbai studio, Sujay Jairaj, Trustee of the Narsee Monjee Education Trust, Jamna by Narsee School. We also have Gagan Goyal, partner of India Quotient, and joining us from Delhi is Harman Singh, CEO of WizIQ.
We need to move more from rote learning, where children do more of memory, to more of skill-based learning. What I mean by that is, give students more projects where they can work out in the environment outside, in the external environment, learn more about what the external environment is there, and see how they can apply more of things learned in the classroom in the real world.
So I think the biggest problem with the Indian education system right now is the lack of opportunities. The lack of opportunities in the sense, as in only the IIMs or the IITs. Now they limit the opportunities to very few, and perhaps if that can increase, then it'd be a greater help to the nation as a whole.
So in college level, my daughter is very good in medical, but she is also learning. She is also very good at the literature. So it's not possible to have both the streams at the college level. So that should be included. Minor and major stream should be included in our education system.
We have one of a, I wouldn't say the best, but one of a, capable education system. But what we need actually is more of a practical education. Like what we are studying in schools, colleges is more of a theory base. But if you could just put more emphasis on how the application or where the application of these theories would be practical, I think that would make more sense to make a successful profession out of it.
I think the app-based education is important for the children. Okay, currently the use of technology by the children is very high. Okay, and basically the education, the virtual education, okay, the education in the form of video, in the form of images would help children's in a better way.
Virtual classrooms and app-based learning may change the face of education in the near future. But the biggest change parents wish to see in the current education system is to move away from theoretical learning.
Harman, Gagan, Sujay, thank you all very much for being with us here tonight to talk about education and entrepreneurship in the field of education. And maybe I can very quickly start with you, Gagan, to talk to us about Think Labs as an entrepreneur in the education space. Very quickly tell us what that, about the business and what it was.
So, I started Think Labs around 9 years ago. During my college days, I realized that learning by doing is one of the best way to learn. We should move beyond books and practical knowledge is most important. So with that idea, I started Think Labs to promote hands-on learning. We used to set up robotics labs and science labs in the school. And in our 9 years of our journey, I realized that I think there is a lot of need to improve the way education is getting imparted in our country. And obviously, a lot of startups are coming up, but a lot more for everyone to do.
Okay, speaking of startups, let me come to you, Harman. Talk to our viewers about WizIQ.
Yeah, so WizIQ is an online education platform company where we provide the entire software infrastructure to anybody who wants to teach or train online. So we are solving one side of the problem of technology where education service providers, be it an independent tutor to a very large organization like school or college, do not have to indulge in building technology from scratch, which we saw everybody was doing. So we provide one comprehensive platform available as white labeled solution, even as a mobile app, so that the educators and service providers can focus on teaching or training rather than building technology.
Okay, fair enough. So while there is definitely a lot of innovation which is happening in this space, I want to talk about what's happening in the grassroots. And Sujay, let me come to you on this and just read out very quickly some statistics that I picked up, and they're definitely alarming statistics. So in 2016, it showed that about 4% non-enrollment of children had fallen to about 2%. The bad news, however, is that quality seems to have fallen from about 50% of class 3 students who could read a class 1 text. It's fallen to 40%. Is that something you see in your line, and how can it be tackled?
Right. So of course, I am a part of private education, which is growing at a very good pace and quality. But as you read out the numbers, it is an alarming situation, because I feel education is not about quantity, it is all about quality. And what is happening is, India, with the population and the complexities of our country, we need to tackle education from various corners, and so academics, sports, extracurricular activities, values, and to impart education we need trained teachers, which is lacking mainly, because what is happening is, with the number of schools growing, we need a lot of trained teachers in the field of education. So we need a lot of trained teachers from the government side, coming in and spreading education. One interesting figure that I'd like to share is, India spends around 3.3% of GDP on education, whereas if you see countries in the West, they spend 6 to 7% of the GDP. On the other hand, the population of India below the age of 30 is around 60%. So instead of spending 6 to 7%, we need to spend 10%, compared to the West, in order to provide education better or equivalent to what they're providing in the West.
Okay. I want to pick up on one of the things you said, which is trained teachers, Sujay. How can that issue be tackled?
So we need teacher training institutes, and
set up by whom? Is it a PPP? Is it private? What is going to fix that?
So ideally, it should be a PPP model. So we have the quality in place, and now with the technology, we can reach out to a wider audience, all over the country. We don't need to be physically present. So we don't need people going all over the villages or small towns. We can maximize technology with the Prime Minister's vision of Digital India. We can, with the 3G and 4G schemes that are coming out, we can really reach out, to the audience all over the country. And I think training the teachers, giving them the importance of academic, sports, overall development of the child is what can lead to, quality education and growing quality of education.
I would like to add here. So if you really see in Finland, like Finland is #1 in PISA rating and all. I've interacted with many people during my Think Labs journey, and I realized that the one biggest thing which Finland is focusing on is investing on their teachers.
Yes.
In India, we have this B.Ed program to become a teacher, right? The B.Ed program is typically 2 to 3 years. People don't take it serious. It's more like a thappa, okay? But actually in Finland, if you see, it's a 5-year program. It's a very intensive program with 2 years of field work. A teacher is supposed to spend 2 years in the field. It's a very rigorous, like the way we have, say, medical. Like the medical colleges are inside the hospital. Same way a B.Ed college has to be inside a school. Teacher has to be practically working, and they should be like encouraged, and same way for, so it's not about just making them aware about a subject, about a science.
Not just the certificate, it's also the experience.
Experience at the end, and respect. So in Finland, the teachers are respected highly, like a doctor or a pilot. And this investment on their training, I think that is the biggest thing. If you do, I think a lot of things can change in our education.
I want to come to you on that, Harman. Talk to our viewers about whether what should be their mindset when they approach a business in the education space. You're setting up a business naturally to make money, but should you only be chasing ROI, or should there be an aspect of social, entrepreneurship also that plays a large role? And if yes, what sort of incentive should an entrepreneur in the education space look at?
Okay, so I don't think these are distinct goals. One, delivering ROI, and 2, making money out of it, or 3, whether it's going to add value or not. So I don't think these are 3 distinct things and one conflicts the other. They're all aligned into one, and unless they align, you can't really build an education business. So for instance, you would see many private education companies who are doing well for several years or maybe decades, and they are one of the some of the best schools people go through, whether it's K-12 schools, test prep coaching centers, or even colleges. and their alumni who would vouch for these schools and colleges and coaching centers like they would for Harvard or Stanford or places like those. So I don't think these objectives are misaligned. An entrepreneur's job is to deliver value, and value has to be defined whether what are the learning outcomes, whether students are actually attaining what they came here to do, and at the same time the business got to be profitable, at least at some point in time. So I don't think these are misaligned.
All right, you're talking about Stanford and Harvard. I want to talk about the global picture and what lessons we can learn from there on the other side of this very short break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're talking about education and how you, the MSME entrepreneur, can grow in this field and what you should keep in mind. And we have some of the biggest experts from the education space to talk to you about it. Just before we hit the break, we were talking about some of the more famous global institutions, and I want and perhaps let me come to you on this, Sujay, talk to our viewers about the education space in India. Is it possible to compare ourselves with what is happening globally, and is it possible then to learn any lessons from there, or is the solution and the needs for the domestic education market very different from what's happening anywhere else?
So I'd like to separate two categories over here. One is K-12 education, as Gagan mentioned, and one is the higher education bit. So I think K-12 education, India is doing a fantastic job. I think we have one of the best schools in the world. Our students are doing fantastically well in the best universities abroad. But then what is happening after K-12 is suddenly the best students actually moving on to Harvards and Stanfords or the best universities worldwide. So I think I see a drop in the higher education, maybe because of the government regulations. So that's why a lot of private universities are not coming in the picture. And I think we need to bridge that gap by creating world-class institutions in India, because of which we can avoid brain drain, because we have our Indian brains going and working in the best companies abroad. If we can utilize them in India, and we can keep them back in India for higher education, I think, that can change the whole game for education.
Okay, you're talking about K-12. Harman, let's talk about the role that technology plays, whether it's higher education, whether it is, primary education. Are you happy with the kind of technology and the kind of disruption and the kind of innovation that we're seeing? If not, what do you think is going to bring about that change when it comes to the use of technology in education?
Yeah, of course not. I'm not happy with the changes that are there. In pockets there are changes, but not enough. So see, we have to understand here technology not for the sake of it, but where it adds value. So we believe that technology can never replace a teacher or instructor, not now, not 20 years from now. So having said that, technology has a crucial role to play to enhance teachers' capabilities, take on a lot of work that teachers otherwise do that's not required if they were using technology. For instance, in America a few years ago, there was a teacher came up with this idea of flipping the classroom, became very popular, but it's not popular enough that everybody uses it. For instance, the teacher started saving time inside the classroom by providing video lectures to the students, her own lectures, that they were supposed to watch before they enter the class. Now they're inside the class. That 45 minutes of the classroom is being used as more as problem solving, discussion and debates, not lecturing. Lecturing is just one-way street. So that's a great use of technology. Simple video, online video technology being used by instructors. So even as flipped classroom, well proven everywhere in the world, is not used by most teachers, especially in India. So that is one classic example how technology can help, and our teachers, our instructors are not using it enough.
Okay, fair enough. He was talking about technology and that he's not really happy. Harman was talking about how there's a lot more that can be done. My question to you, Gagan, is can the government step in And will the government stepping in help fix this and help and ensure more widespread use of technology then?
So I think in my view, a lot of initiatives been taken by government in terms of getting this smart classroom into the school and bringing technology. So I think on technology front, there are steps which are happening. I think the government can step in at a policy level rule. I think we have still, the education system is the old style system. The way private schools are, why private schools are performing better? Because of the better teacher. They have better approach of teaching and learning. They are not focusing on those text-based studies. I think government should bring that mindset change in the government school, either by changing policy or by bringing new set of regulations and all. I think that will definitely help much bigger, because I think technology is just an enabler. As Harman said, technology is there, he is sort of little bit happy. I think the input has to be corrected now, and the mindset has to be changed. People should not talk about just marks and numbers. People should talk about and outcome. Okay. Are our students employable? Are our students being good in other areas and all? I think so the focus should come on that. It's been happening, but much more
is needed.
Much more is needed.
What are some of the biggest policy changes, Sujay, that you want to see for the education space? One is GST. I know there's not going to be too much of an impact on education. Demonetization, I don't know if it has hit your industry. What is the sort of overall change, the regulatory framework you want to see change for education?
No, I think in terms of knowledge base, in terms of the academic curriculum base, India is very rich. I think what needs to change is the implementation and the execution of the same actual, in the schools, in the government schools, in the, small towns and all over. What is GST and demonetization has not affected education much, because we are exempt from GST. Some goods might, stationery and products might become expensive, some might become cheaper, so.
But that will get passed through to the parents.
I don't think that for a long term, I think GST and demonetization both are very good for the country. But I think it is the execution and the implementation of the policies which are already there. I think we need, we all have an organization structure in our companies, from a CEO to the managers. Like in the same way, India has a great organization structure with 543 constituencies, 543 MPs, MLAs, corporators. They need to be given a mandate on education, to concentrate on education, and to have that effective implementation, and to see that the resources are being spent in the right manner, in the right way, and 100% of it is reaching the final student or the teacher. Because we have the budgets, we have the people, but we need to have that will to perform.
I have a suggestion here. I think government should also look at the way they have given priority to the software sector by giving them a tax exempt to the
sunset policy.
Yeah, the sunset policy, or like for the exports. I think when governments talk about education being one of the important aspect and social, I think government should allow education entrepreneurs to be sort of exempted. Or I will give you another example, like in US, the defense is supposed to buy 5% of their goods from the startups in US. So 5% of the defense budget should be spent on the startups. So the same way government brings such policies that, okay, 5% of their education budget should be gone to the education startups. So I think this will encourage young entrepreneurs.
They are collecting cess, education cess.
Yeah, they are collecting education cess, right? So I think the spending should be encouraged towards, first of all, new upcoming startups. And also I think maybe some sort of tax rebate can be given to this education institute, like the schools are exempted from the tax and all, but the private companies are not. So if they can be also exempted in some form for some time, I think it will encourage more and more people to come in.
Okay. Harman, I want to ask you a slightly big picture question. Even as we are talking about education and the changes we need to see there, what is going to ensure that innovation like yours, like your companies, is more widespread? Can entrepreneurship and innovation start really early? I know we did very briefly address this earlier, but what can ensure that it is being taught perhaps at schools, taught perhaps in colleges, and what can ensure that we have the thinking and the mindset that can embrace this?
Government, what I've seen is making lots of changes in the regulations as well, opening up distance education, offering credits to students who go and learn online, and so on and so forth. However, I see that a move in the right direction, but still a drop in the bucket. A lot more needs to be done, mostly by the government, by I would say kind of deregulating the online education system. So the more they do that, while government takes some initiatives on their side like Swayam, the whole private education economy is going to bubble up, and we're going to have a new era of online education and more better quality and more students being educated.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time on this panel discussion, but I very quickly want to get closing comments from you. And Harman, let me come to you first. There is definitely a lot that is happening in Indian education in terms of innovation, use of technology, etc. But what more can be done, particularly using technology? And maybe you can tell our viewers about what you're working on.
Yeah. So, see, in technology, obviously online education is the next wave that has to be adopted. You just can't build enough schools to teach and train students. So, here's what I think government can do. Government should not regulate training or teaching per se. What they should regulate is assessments. So, for example, we have an IIT JEE exam. Whoever gets through the exam qualifies to get into an engineering college in IIT, and so on and so forth. So, there are such assessments that are governed by the government, and whoever goes through that qualifies for it. Similarly, government should not ask where you study, whether you study online or offline, whether this college or that college. If the government focuses only on the assessment framework, and regardless of where the student has studied or not studied at all, and passes that assessment exam, is where we will have a lot more quality in education, as well as quality of students moving forward. So, government becomes the gatekeeper, but not really involved in teaching or training or regulating that.
Fair enough, Harman. Sujay, let me come to you. How can entrepreneurs ensure that the quality of private institutions is matched with the scale of public institutions?
In terms of matching the scale, we cannot reach the numbers in terms of what the government has, because of course they have a huge budget countrywide. But what happens is, each entrepreneur, like for example myself, I have been involved in Jamnabai Narsee school for the last 15 years. I have started 3 more schools. I am directly and indirectly catering to 50,000 students in my own way. But there is a limitation, which can be, bridged again with the technology, but we need a lot of support from the government in terms of making schools, because what is happening is making schools is a very capital intensive, process. So there is a lot of capital that goes in. There is no break even, honestly speaking. I come from the not for profit background. So we need a lot of support from the government, from the CSR initiatives. One of the schools that I've started in Gujarat, which is in Gift City, the smart city, we were gifted the land from the government purely on the technical, specs of our school. So we need more initiatives like that. We need support from the government to reach out to a large audience, and in turn, we can provide quality, and we can, tie up with the government in terms of PPP model, and, improve the quality.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to let you have the last word, Gagan. As an entrepreneur in the education space, you've been through that grind. You've had your opportunities, you've had your challenges. What is the one thing that you want to leave our viewers with, entrepreneurs in the education space?
So I think in my view, for education entrepreneur, there is a large space available in the market. A lot of smartphone users are coming up. I think if anyone who is entrepreneur, if he focus on the learning outcome and keep focusing on the unit economics of his product and all, I think he can do wonders.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you all very much for being with us here tonight. If you are an MSME and you have anything that you want to say to us, or you have any feedback about this panel discussion, do remember you can write in at leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. On social media, tweet at me personally at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now. Our Facebook page is Leaders of Tomorrow on ET now, or call us on that number you see on your screen. We promise to have all your questions answered. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.